Hey gang, my name's Chris. Welcome to the show. I know there are some fantasy leagues out there with early trade deadlines before week 11 begins, and I thought I'd give you some deadline thoughts. I know that most fantasy football content that deals with trade deadlines has to do with looking at schedules. What do you think of that guy's schedule? Wow, he has such an easy schedule. And I'm still a little skeptical heading into week 11 that we know exactly what defenses are going to be in weeks 14, 15, especially 16. We're talking entire defenses that could get hurt in the next month plus. But I also know to give the people what they want. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you 6 names to explore trading for or acquiring: 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts. In each position, I'll do one guy I think I just value more than the market, and I'm not going to think about schedule that much. And then I will do one guy where I look mostly at the playoff matchups, 14, 15, 16, and like what I see. So let's get going. For the quarterback I'd trade for regardless of schedule, I'll go Aaron Rodgers. You have the advantage of maybe his owner needs a win this week and the Packers are off. Plus, the last 2 weeks, Rodgers' numbers have been bad. 1 combined touchdown in 2 games. He's old, he's fading, he's bad. I don't think any of that is true. I particularly thought watching the Panther game back on film from week 10 that he had several excellent throws, and the touchdowns were just scored by running backs when the receivers got tackled in close. Of course, it's fine and fair to be deeply skeptical that trading for any quarterback is not all that great of an idea. Like, if you're strong enough with your current QB to make your playoffs, you got a pretty good shot at being strong enough to win in those playoffs with your current QB. But Rodgers is awesome, and if you can get him for not all that much, I would consider it and not worry too much about the schedule, though I do recognize he didn't play very well the first time around in the season opener against the Bears 3+ months ago, whom he will have in week 15. Okay, so what would be a good enough price to help me make the switch? I mean, in season-long ranks, I'm seeing people who have Rodgers behind Kenyon Drake. I legitimately see that. I think it's crazy. Curtis Samuel, I would do that. James White, done. Miles Sanders, done. Michael Gallup, done. These are all players who are above Rodgers on the average season-long rank at Fantasy Pros. For me, I don't think Rodgers' numbers describe how well he's played. With the benefit of looking at those week 14, 15, and 16 schedules right now, probably way too early to be accurate. You want to know which quarterback looks to me like he has the best playoff schedule? Oh yeah, it's this guy. It's the pumpkin, Ryan Fitzpumpkin, the man who keeps both teams in a game with his talent and then his largesse. Right now, to me, this kind of looks like a dream schedule. The Jets and Giants aren't very good, just played a game where neither defense exactly impressed me all that much. The Bengals are real vanilla on the back end and haven't mustered much of a pass rush. Of course, Fitzpatrick isn't a consistently good player, and he can throw 5 picks against anybody, and frankly, we have no guarantee he won't get benched for Josh Rosen before then. Plus, I will say, you don't need to trade for him. The dude's owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues. He's probably available just to pick up. Will I be benching Tom Brady for Ryan Fitzpatrick in 14 through 16? I will not. But by the same token, I bet there'll be some teams who get to their playoffs despite their quarterback and not because of him. For them, I say maybe enjoy some pumpkin. It's gift-giving time, but what about a gift to yourself? The gift of an Audible membership. For a limited time, Audible is offering more than half off your first 3 months. Every month, when you're an Audible member, you can choose 1 audiobook and 2 exclusive Audible originals. And when you start your new Audible account, they'll give you 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals for free. And you know what? I have novels on Audible. Slapback Rhapsody, it's about football. Tulsa, it's about the apocalypse. A couple others. If you make one of my books your free audiobook, then send me a screen cap, you'll be a person of the book. You'll be in our Sunday morning live stream. Ask me lineup questions live for free. Visit audible.com/HarrisTube or text HarrisTube to 500-500. 3 months of Audible, just $6.95 a month. Get one of my books. Become a person of the book. Audible.com/HarrisTube or text HarrisTube to 500-500. Okay, we're back at it, and let's talk running backs. So the back I would trade for, heedless of his schedule, just because I like the player very much, it's the jacked gerbil, Josh Jacobs, the dude who reminds me so much of young Doug Martin. I want to pry him away from his owner. I want to use him all playoffs long. Now, his shoulder hasn't been particularly healthy. The Raiders don't give him a million snaps. Against the Chargers last week, he spent about half the game watching while other halfbacks played. And frankly, we can't know what the workload will be like down the stretch because the Raiders might suddenly fall out of the playoff picture and decide to rest their first-round pick, or they might go for broke and they might ride him like a rented mule. If you've watched this channel consistently this year, you know I've simply fallen in love with this player. He can't do everything. He's not a pure speed burner. He's not going to run over a defensive lineman, but just about everything else, he's improbably quick, has great vision and acceleration, can catch it. I think he's great, and he's not going to come cheap. We're not talking about a value purchase of a distressed asset. You're going to have to pay. But if I could get him with a frontline receiver on the order of like Devontae Adams, Kenny Golladay, Julian Edelman, if I can spare one of those players, I will do it. And of course, I will also always try and trade ponies for a horse. A decent but lesser running back who makes me a little fidgety. I'll partner that guy with a receiver not in the class of the ones I just mentioned and see if a 2-for-1 can get that deal done. But if we're just talking schedule, I don't love this player. I've recently shown you right on this channel how I don't think Sony Michel is all that special as a cutter, as an accelerator, as a vision guy. But he looks to me like he's really got good possibility for some touchdowns down the stretch. We'll see. Last year, as the season went along, the Patriots figured out some stuff on their offensive line, and Michel became a high workload, high touchdown fantasy beast. I'm skeptical that's about to happen again when the blocking crew they have right now is worse than last year. This schedule doesn't seem like it's going to offer tons of resistance. The Chiefs and Bengals kind of speak for themselves against the run, and even the Bills. We've seen some running backs do real work against Buffalo for a few weeks in a row, including the combo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt last week. Of course, again, the idea that I know what the Bills' defense will be in Week 16 as of right now is highly specious, and I don't love the idea of taking on a player I don't think is great because I suspect his team might be ahead and or scoring a bunch of touchdowns. But if it's schedule analysis you demand, it's schedule analysis I will supply on looking at the entire board, all the running backs. He's the one whose opponents I like best. And I wouldn't think you'd have to pay an arm and a leg for him. I'm guessing, he could be your flex. You might trade Austin Eckler for him or that next level receiver down. I like DJ Chark more probably in a vacuum, but if you're going to play the schedule game and Chark is kind of an extra piece on your roster who you added and who's worked out, but you have other receivers, could be a winning play. Okay, and then how about a couple of receivers? We don't know that T.Y. Hilton even plays in Week 11 against the Jags, but as with Aaron Rodgers, maybe that's something that makes a deal likelier to happen if the Hilton owner in your league is desperate for a win. To make a deal for Hilton would be to trust that the calf injury will get right before December, and that's a risk. We hear Devin Funchess is coming back. They have a lot of bodies there. But I'm sorry, in the same way John Brown is just sort of irrepressible for the Bills, Hilton is that way for the Colts in a conservative offense with a quarterback I don't love on a team that seems to play nothing but close, low-scoring games. Hilton is still a big play maker who eventually will make big plays and will come at a discount because of the uncertainty and because he hasn't had an amazing year. I don't have him ranked where I did when the season started. I certainly don't have him ranked where I would have had him if Andrew Luck hadn't retired. I still think I can pitch him as at least a top 20 receiver the rest of the way. Barely. And I do not think that the market will value him like that if you try to trade for him, especially right now because of the injury. It is one of those distressed asset situations for all the reasons I just mentioned. I wouldn't want you paying a stud running back for him or anything. But again, find the panicky Hilton owner, take the chance, and while the downside is scary, he could very much let you down, the upside is easily wide receiver 2 every week in December with the potential for even more than that. Finally, I'll do the schedule thing one more time. Don't love the fact that Courtland Sutton's quarterback the rest of the way is some combination of Brandon Allen and or Drew Lock. I do like the player a lot, but probably not enough to consider giving up a ton for him in the current circumstances. Unless I'm thinking about schedules, because Sutton's is one in December when it's going to count, 14, 15, 16, where I think he could feast on this schedule. There are those Chiefs again. Just don't trust him on defense. The Texans have been generous to opposing receivers lately, and so have the Lions. Sutton is at the beginning of a potentially excellent career with that pterodactyl wingspan and excellent body control. Not a burner. Frankly, through 11 weeks, he's fantasy's wide receiver 12. The production has really been there, but I do think it's kind of easy to paint the panic picture for an antsy owner. The quarterback is likely to be bad. The Vikings this week, that's a really hard matchup. If the Vikings had been 14, 15, or 16, I wouldn't like the schedule as much. You won't be getting Courtland Sutton for free. He's not a distressed asset in terms of his performance, but maybe someone will look at him that way based on the situation. I don't see a single cornerback Sutton will play weeks 14, 15, or 16 that won't need help to deal with him, which would make him, for fantasy, a pretty good wide receiver 3 if you can swing it. To me, there are a lot of same-seeming receivers out there. I don't want to hand over a very strong running back to get Courtland Sutton, but again, baffle them with baloney, ponies for a horse, 2 for 1. And with that December schedule, Sutton could, and I emphasize could, be a horse. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.